Hi everyone, I'm John, your host for today on Route to Scale, a short podcast featuring the founders and operators building the future of e commerce, fulfillment, mobility, and modern delivery. In this segment, we're going to be focusing in on Africa, and today I'm very excited to have Bello, Head of Growth and Operations at truQ. truQ is a Lagos based logistics and logistics fintech company that originally started by connecting people and businesses with nearby vans and trucks. Today, the company is increasingly focused on empowering commercial fleet operators, helping them log trips, get paid faster, build earning histories, access financing, and reduce operating expenses, and also finally expand the job market to find more important jobs. In late 2025, truQ has already reported operating in more than five Nigerian cities and also onboarding just around 3,000 transporters and have digitized roughly 300,000 trips. This is a huge growing logistics company for the future. Thank you so much, Bello, for joining us on this call. We're so excited to get this started.
Thank you very much, John. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, Bello, we just have to ask you, you are working two hats over here, right? Leading both growth and operations at truQ. Those two functions can sometimes pull in very different directions, especially when we think about
Exactly.
complicated logistics companies, right? How do you manage to balance the
Exactly.
two? What do you look for?
Okay. Well, for me, I understand that for us to grow as a business at truck, the easiest way for us to grow is to grow with our existing clients. Increase. Of course, we have competitors in the business, so the easiest way to grow at first is to grow with the existing client, and by this I mean do more with them and also expand with them into new territories. And for this to happen, we have to have top quality in terms of our operations. We have to deliver excellent service to them. So I understand that for my job as the head of growth to really, really be successful, I also need to do the job of the head of operations very well. Because for me at truck, growth means grow with the existing clients, grow into new territories, and also grow into new vertical. And of course, the easiest to do of this is to grow with the existing client. So I have a team that focuses on this. So it's a no-no for me. Deliver quality experience first to existing clients. This way we can grow with them. And of course, the industry is a small world, and with this way, we can easily go and say to the new clients to say, "Oh, new territories, new verticals," to say, "We are doing X and X with this business. We have done so with them. We have grown with them into this new territory, and we are hoping to do something similar to you. No, not exactly like that, but to help you grow and also scale." When you can show 2, 3 testimonials of growth, both in terms of what you're doing at a location and also into different territories, it makes your job easy. So for me, I know I have to do very well with the current operations while also ensuring that with the new growth, I can show the success I've achieved with the with the existing clients to the new client, and that has worked very well for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. One thing that I was doing as I was researching your company that I found was that the company obviously has grown and evolved over the years, right? One thing I
Yes.
noticed is that previously truQ originally really looked a lot like a on-demand marketplace to connect customers with nearby trucks and vans, almost like a Uber for trucks or vans, right? Today, what I see is the
Yes.
company is talking a lot more about using amazing technology to empower commercial fleet operators and also build and support with financial infrastructure around it, right? What did you learn from the
Yes.
market that caused this evolution of your business?
All right, operating as an on-demand business meant that we want to connect cargo proprietors to vehicles and drivers as quickly as possible. But it didn't take too long to find out that although those vehicles were available, we would always have financial issues around, "Oh, I need to go for maintenance today. I don't have money. Because of that, this vehicle will not be available. Or I need to get fuel. I need to pay something." So it didn't take too long to find out that if we would actually have this on-demand system to work, we also needed to have something in form of a financial structure around it, because we found out quickly that access to finance was a problem these small transporters and truck owners had. And in order to solve that, of course, it's we decided to say, let's take this on and solve it. So that in solving this, we will both be solving the problem for ourselves and for others. And by so doing, we can also grow with these guys. So
Mm.
that was what caused us to build this whole operating and financial structure around our business, as you see.
Wow, wow. Awesome, awesome. Now, we went very, very, you know, we all know that one of the hardest parts of any logistics business or mobility business is always the unit economics, right? One thing that I noticed is that as truck really went deeper into logistics, that could mean a heavier focus on unit economics, right? What does the unit economics
Yes.
look like? How does that business work in that sense with truck providing this infrastructure?
Okay, so for small transporters that we have, one of the things we try to do is to kind of localize it to existing partners that we have. So before you can access anything financials from us, you must have also worked for us over a period of time.
Mm,
We have seen your data, your trip
mm,
history. So we have an idea of how much you make in a week, in a day, in a month. We have an idea of also who you are as a person, who you are as also a transporter, because you can be a great person, but as a transporter, you are not too great in terms of performance.
mm,
So when we give you access to our finance product, it's actually based on your trip history, based
mm,
on how much you can make in terms of revenue in a month. That determines quite a lot of how much you can get for us. So in terms of what revenue you bring in, what margins, and also, what's the cost in using you also for us. We look at all of these things in order to determine how much to give you and whether we should actually give you in the first
mm.
case.
Wow, wow, wonderful. Now, I noticed once again you work with bigger operators as well as smaller operators, right? Let's talk about
Yes.
smaller operator first. We'll get to the bigger one soon, right? Um, what did you see as the biggest constraints for these small operators? Was it actually, the supplier demand, right? In a sense, was it for them to find more work? Was it getting paid quickly enough, like a payment term problem? Was it to pay for fuel and maintenance? What was the thing that really hindered them from making profitable trips, so to say, or profitable kind of asset or business?
Okay, I think I'll try to answer this from two sides.
Sure.
Now, these small transporters can either operate solo. When I mean operate solo, they are not attached to any business, they are not attached to any company like truck. They're just out there, not knowing what the day will bring for them. So for them, operating that way, there's an advantage to that, and there's also a disadvantage. The advantage is that whatever job you do, you work for individuals, more like if I can call it C2C, customer to customer, like that. Individuals to like between individuals, you get your money immediately after the job. You get your money, so they can quickly get their money. But the downside of that is also that there's no leverage to price. So it's just, oh, I think this is what this. Then you kind of agree. So most times they shortchange themselves. But I think the biggest problem they have for this category of transporters is the unpredictability. You start each day without having assurance of where you get cargoes to load or others to do. So you can run a whole day, maybe 3 days, and not get anything. Then at the end of maybe 2 3 days, you get something. That unpredictability is there. But of course, you are your own master. You choose to work when you want to work. You choose to do whatever it is you want to work. Then, so for people that also work with the companies directly, now, not company like logistics company like trucks, maybe manufacturing and retail companies like truck, I think access to finance is the biggest issues, because these businesses want you to do trips for a period of time, say 1 week, 2 weeks, then invoice them. And of course, these guys are small. They don't have that financial strength. So it's always very difficult for them to be able to work with these guys. And that is one of the problems Truck is solving by saying, okay, we would come in, you guys do this job, we'll pay you quickly, then the clients can also get the job done. Then why we go after the clients and get our own money much later? So that's one of the things we're solving.
Wow, wow, wonderful, wonderful. Now, as you become a even more um, bigger logistics and kind of matchmaking, kind of platform as well. I just want to talk about a recently introduced product that you guys have when I was doing some research called MoveBit, right? Is that correct? MoveBit?
Yes.
Um,
Yes, move beats, yeah.
yeah, where where what I see is that truck is trying to make things even more efficient. Like we talk about, unit economics
Yeah.
is always key. One way you're improving
Yes.
unit economics with MoveFit is actually consolidating and batching more orders instead of hiring a full vehicle, right? Um,
Yeah.
what does that take to make it work operationally without introducing, so much waiting or detouring such that, your savings or your clients are unhappy with the time delays and everything, right? Especially in such a robust, growing country like Nigeria, where cities are crazy, with traffic and chaos.
All right. Okay, so actually for our move beats, it's not just within Lagos alone. We go like to the north, if you know Lagos, Lagos is in the southwest. Like, I mean, we cover hundreds of miles.
Wow.
So for move beats at first, where the idea we had at first was that we kind of aggregate these small packages and then do the delivery with some of our partner vehicles. But it didn't take long to find out that, like you said, there might be a bit of waiting. You might have to wait for maybe a day or two in order for you to actually get to move your stuff. So one thing we did is we partnered with a logistics company that is into this kind of stuff, so that whatever it is you want to move, you really don't need to wait for anybody. You want to move today, just tell us where the pickup is. We go there, we do the pickup, and then the company does the delivery for us, because we found out that our existing capacity would actually not solve the waiting problem. But there's somebody already who has solved the waiting problem. Why not just partner with them? So with this partnership, that is how we have been able to sort the waiting time without actually improving our unit economics. And in fact, our the numbers even got better for us, in the sense that this company has built their own capacity to doing this. So they have optimized and maximized their system very well. So for us, it's just very easy. Once we go to them, we can offer almost the cheapest rate in the market for you to move any item across Nigeria.
Wow. Can I just check? So, you guys have no fleet of your own, is that correct?
Yes, we are asset light. We work with vehicle owners and our partners also.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. And and in terms of, I guess, organizing the routing and the dispatching of those vehicles, is that infrastructure that you provide for these operators too, or do you rely on their routing and dispatching depending on where the locations are?
Okay, no. We have our own in-house. We have a range of apps, but we have our own in-house called Shiju, and we like to call it the operating system for transporters. We Africa is where we set our eyes on. We are starting locally, but Africa is the goal. So the way the that Shiju the app works is that it it allows us to integrate every other app that we have, both the finance products, our driver app, our client app, so that on that app we can do quite a lot of things. You can do fleet management, you can route trips, you can batch trips, you can do driver management, you can do quite a lot of stuff. And it also has a wallet system inbuilt, wherein our clients can actually fund their wallet, and drivers can also do trips, and there'll be a direct deduction from the client's wallet into the driver's wallet, like that. So the operating system is actually something that, whether you are a client internally for us, or you are a driver or a vehicle owner, because the app also allows for vehicle owners to come in. Let's say you have 10 vehicles, you can come in, register your individual vehicles and driver underneath, and then using our app, you can manage all of those vehicles, whether with truck or even what you do outside. So that gives you visibility. So let's say you're not working with truck, but you're onboarded on our app, with for just I think it's almost free. You can actually use our app to manage your trips, your revenue, even for what you do outside. And it's pretty cool, actually. Pretty cool.
Wow, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Would definitely love to take
Yes.
a look at that. So,
Sure.
so one of the things that I saw, obviously, as your company has grown in amazing scale, right? By late 2025, like I said, it's a huge milestone as well. So congratulations. Truck
Thank
said
you
that
very
it
much.
has onboarded 3,000 transporters and digitized roughly 300,000 trips across 5 Nigerian cities. That's a huge,
Yes.
that's a huge jump, right? And I'm sure you want to do more, right? Um,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
exactly, right. So from a logistics and operations standpoint, I think our audience would love to learn, right? What starts breaking when an operation moves from a few hundred, vehicles or deliveries to something of the thousands or the 100,000 scale to a network at that scale? What's the real differences and what really starts to break and how do you fix those issues?
So for me, I think I'll mention quite a lot of issues. When you have few trips, few drivers, few vehicles, few clients, it's actually very easy for you to deliver quality.
Hmm.
Like I love to use this as an example to people on my team. If you do 10 trips a day and then you fail your on-time delivery on two, that's 80%. 80%, that looks woeful, like two clients out of 10 not satisfied. That's very bad. But if you do 1,000 trips and then you fail on 20, you kind of gloss over it and say, that's just 20. But again, before you know it, you get numb to listening to your customers because you have volume. You get numb to the customer's voice. Before you know it, the thing that made you stand out at first, you will stop doing it because now you are spread thin.
Hmm.
So one of the things I try to tell them is we have an SLA and we must deliver quality. Then I think the next thing has to do with visibility.
Hmm.
10 is easy to look at, 1,000 is difficult to see because before you know it, a client that used to be your biggest client will just become a line on an Excel sheet, just a number on your dashboard. And if you don't have visibility to be able to drill down to say, okay, this thing we are doing good, fine. What are the things that are where we are dropping the ball? Who are these people involved? Let's get to see how can we solve this problem. If you don't have that visibility,
Hmm.
before you know it, it would spread. And then there is one thing I have learned. I have learned in my business of scaling in my career of scaling businesses, moving from little number of trips to a large volume of trips is if something is happening for the first time, you see it for the second time, then there's a pattern. Go after it. It does not matter who's affected, whether it's small business or not, because before you know it, it becomes a culture within your team to allow things slide. 21% becomes 2%, 3%, and before you know it, there are a lot of issues. So I would really speak about the things that make operations break when you actually scale is being able to deliver the same level of quality you delivered when you were not big
Hmm.
to those guys when you're big, and also maintaining visibility.
Hmm.
And I think another thing will be getting the right people on the team.
Hmm.
Right people on the team. When you start, the people you start with have this sense of ownership. You're building something. When you scale and you become bigger, people just join a structured company, and that sense of ownership is not there. So I think getting the right people on the team is also an important part of ensuring that at each point, the operation is not breaking.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing that. That's really, really helpful. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, quite a lot of, you know,
Thank
um,
you.
yeah, time flies really when we're having fun. We're coming down to our last few questions
Yeah,
actually,
sure
so
thing.
that's what really happens when we're having fun.
Thank
You
you.
know, one complication when you think about running such a large operation at scale, especially something as ambitious as truck, uh, could be obviously from a location and a routing perspective. I would say that gets complicated if you're trying to match deliveries on demand to trucks, right? Going on
Exactly.
specific routes, right?
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
information have you seen that has proved the most useful for truck as you continue to scale? Is it the vehicle accuracy or vehicle location, trip distance, traffic, route history, customer density, right? What are these, I guess, parameters that you have found to be the most useful to optimize your business?
Okay, well, I think at this stage in which we have, one of the things that we have found very useful in, of course, routing things and also in scaling, has to be information about what happens on the journey.
Hmm.
Information about what happens on the journey. And when I say things that happen on the journey, quite a lot. Traffic is part of that. Okay, what happens when there's a breakdown? Those things are quite valuable because what makes our job easy is, what we really do at truck is it happens on the road. largely on the road. So the more information we have about what happens on the road, okay, because again, okay, we are in Nigeria and our roads can be better. So knowing, oh, this road, there's traffic here, knowing ahead of time in order to be able to reroute guys to go through another route, that gives us valuable information. And there are times when you really need to rely on the guys that are on the road to actually provide you feedback.
Mm.
For example, recently I loaded a truck to go from Lagos to Abuja, and the truck actually spent like 2 days in traffic. So I knew that other, yeah, like 2 days in traffic, just within maybe 10 kilometers. So I knew that others will not pass through that place.
Mm.
Others go through an alternative route. So I think having information of what is happening on the road, traffic, okay, hazard, okay, is there flooding on this side? Okay, and security issues are also security issues also. Just having information on things on this road on the road has actually helped. Okay, because this place is hilly and there is a possibility of rollover accident. You tell drivers, okay, when you get to this particular point, be very careful, approach it this way. If there are no other ways, if there are other ways, please go through it. Because again, for us, we want to deliver on time, but we also want to deliver safely. So if we have to sacrifice one, then we'd rather sacrifice on time and deliver safely than to say, let's go through the shorter route and then risk the driver, risk the asset and the cargo also.
Wow.
So information on what is happening on the road.
Wow. So let's double click on that, right? On safety, right?
All right.
Because I assume, I think I've spoken to quite a few others about this as well. Um, let's just say you're using Google Maps, right? Someone's telling me, and then sometimes Google Maps, they don't know which roads are safe or not, right? They
Yes,
just
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
go, right? A lot of times it has to be down to the expertise of the driver himself, or
Yes.
your team, right? So how do you navigate those
Yeah.
safety circumstances? I guess on routing, do you just rely on your own knowledge and you tell the driver, don't follow this, you gotta not use this road,
Okay, so again, one of the things we try to do is everyone in this business, you need to be part of organizations and you need to be part of groups where information are shared daily.
Mm,
And then because because over time, because of experience, you can say that, oh, when there's heavy rainfall, there's so place because of the river there. Yeah,
mm,
the river will overflow its bank. There'll be flooding there, so don't go through this. So we have that. You kind of use your existing knowledge, then you take feedback from what the driver is saying. That is because again, apart from tracking trucks, like you have said, trackers only tell you, IVMS will only tell you this is where the driver is. It doesn't tell you what is happening. So we
mm,
try to get feedback from drivers. When they come back, we also try to get feedback from them to say, how was the journey?
mm,
Was there anything we could have done to improve this journey for you?
mm,
The routing we did, or the dispatch process, was that very good for you? And also we speak to our colleagues to say, okay, I'm trying to dispatch a vehicle to this destination I've not gone to. Is there anything I should watch out for?
mm.
Are there security zones that we should watch out for? Are there hazard zones? Are there traffic prone regions there that we should be careful of? So based on all of these things, you can just try to create something, a template that you can use. But again, the technology doesn't tell you what is happening
Mm.
in most cases. Yeah, within Lagos, technology can tell you there's traffic on this road. So of course, Google Map will reroute you through other places. But when you're going outside of Lagos, it's not that easy to reroute. It's not that easy.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about that because we also know, as amazing as Google is at times, there's also a lot of missing information or missing addresses, right?
Exactly.
And like I
Exactly.
said, like you just mentioned, the information is not complete. How has that, hampered your operations? What would you like to see improved?
Hmm. Okay, so I think recently I was trying to navigate a place. I think that was last week using Google Map, and he was telling me, "Is this road still closed?" And I saw that the road was closed, so I just updated it and said it was closed. So I think one of the things, and I know I have seen it somewhere else. I don't know if it's available in Nigeria, where Google Map can also show you something like a video, something like a video. And I think one thing I would like is for Google to ask for more updates, really more updates.
Mm,
Like, because again, if you like, I use Google Map quite a lot. The drivers use them, and most times the updates kind of come after the trip to
Mm,
say this trip. But I think it should happen more while you are in the trip. You are seeing the vehicle, okay, there's a traffic, what is happening? You can quickly put it to say, okay, there's a major accident at this point. Any other person that comes through that route using Google Maps sees there's a major accident on that road and knows to take an alternative route. So I think one thing Google Map can do to make things better is actually make their reviews and their updates happen while the trip is still going on. Because
mm.
when I'm back at home and I've forgotten about the trip and you send something, the driver might not will just look at it. It's very difficult now to really put something very accurate there. But by at that time, you can put something accurate. You could even snap a picture to say this is it. And for somebody like me, I know that a road is flooded and there are pictures. Of course, that helps me because the driver sees the picture, sees the time stamps, and he knows that, oh, the reason why you have to go through a longer route is because of this. The client also know the reason why this delivery will take two more hours is because of this. He sees it, and it's not because, oh, they said something happened somewhere, and there's really nothing to show why that thing happens or what happened. So I think this is something they can improve.
Got it. Got it. All right. You know, on to just the last couple of questions we have time for.
It's great.
We all know that logistic businesses are very, very challenging, right? What is
Yeah, sure.
your biggest business constraint now that you're looking to solve?
Okay. Now, like just to clarify the question, is it a problem we're trying to solve internally for ourselves, or a problem we're trying to solve for for our users and cargo proprietors?
Either one. It's like the type of problem that like keeps you up at night. Like you can't sleep because it's such a hard problem.
Okay. I think for me, um, I try to categorize problems as bad problems and good problems. For me, whatever problem that our client has is a good problem for me because I know if I can solve this, then we get to make a lot of money. So for me, that's a good problem. If people don't have problems, then they don't need us. You
Right.
understand? So that's a good problem. Whatever problem the client is having, it's my job to solve it. But I think internally, I think one of the problems we have is actually access to funds because we have these we have these huge markets that we can enter into.
Mm.
But I know like everywhere, fund is a constraint. We have that constraint, and I have quite a lot of businesses that I am willing to push into, that we can serve. But we need much more funds than we have now in order to go into those businesses. So I'm always thinking, okay, how do I do this? How do I speak to these people, these customers, in order for them to reduce the payment terms from 14 days to 7 days, or probably even to give us an advance? How do I craft these our agreements? Because again, a business that has been operating for 5-6 years using a particular payment model, we not necessarily want to change it for you.
Mm.
You understand? So there is that access to funds there. And this is one of the problems that keep me awake because I know how many businesses I've spoken to willing to do businesses for us and then with us, and then we can't proceed at the scale at which we would produce because, like I said, we
Mm.
also extend a bit of credit to our small transporters, to vehicle owners also, so that they can be available to work for us, so that their lives can also be better. So
Mm.
we take this burden on both sides. So access to funding helps us, and then I think another thing that that keeps me awake is actually the economic situation in the country, where things can just change easily. And for us, for example, when fuel price increases, or when forex change, the price kind of drops or goes up, it affects on our own side, it affects our supply side quickly.
Mm.
When price increases, then your supply partner wants the price to increase and what you're paying him to increase also. But the cargo proprietors are not going to move at that same rate because they are corporate organizations and they can't just make decisions immediately. So for the period of time between when the increase goes on and when we make the adjustment, we also should at that price. So if we can actually have a stable economy where things are a bit predictable for a very long while, it allows us to make a lot of financial planning into the future, and also allows us to lock down price both with our partners and with our clients, because you lock down a freight with your clients today, you cannot say with a sense of certainty, great sense of certainty, that that same price will be obtainable by September. Anything can happen and the price goes up. So that's one of the problems that we have. But apart from that, any problem the client has, like I said, those are good problems that we
Got it.
must solve in order to make money.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much. Now, once again, just last couple of questions. So you you know you've already went from a certain scale and then managed to reach, like I said, 300,000 trips across Nigeria, right? How many are you currently at on a weekly basis, so to say, and how many do you want to get to over the next 1 to 2 years as you keep scaling?
So in looking at the number of orders we process in a week,
Mm,
um, off the top of my head,
yeah,
I'm going to be thinking we'll probably do 500 on worst days. We do 500 trips, individual trips,
in a week, in
retail.
a week, is it?
Yes,
Wow,
in a week.
wow,
So for me, I would actually be looking at a point where, again, again, I really don't like to focus more on number of trips as much as I will focus on revenue. You
absolutely,
understand? Because you could have short haul trips that are not as valuable as very long haul trips. But looking at that, I would really be looking at a point where we actually, let's say by the end of this year, where we're actually doing 2x of what you're doing currently.
absolutely.
Currently, 2x of what you're doing currently. Because
Thousand trips minimum a week.
yes, exactly that. So
Wow,
and of course, a bulk of those trips will actually be the retail trips, moving within Lagos. You can do quite a lot of trips. Small vehicles can do 1 or 2 trips within Lagos, but if you are going outside to, let's say, long haul trips, that could take you one trip in 3-4 days. So we're actually looking at 1,000 trips in a week. And I think that, for me, we have that at the end of the year. No, I'll be smiling. My job is done for the year.
wow, wow, wow. Well, we really are gonna be cheering you on to get there. Last
Yeah.
question. Time flies when we're having fun. if
Yes.
if you could, this is my favorite question. If you could give, what I see is lots of aspiring entrepreneurs and operators in Africa wanting to work hard to build amazing businesses, right? And they're eager to learn from experienced folks like yourself. If you could give one piece of advice for emerging leaders and operators trying to build the future of mobility, delivery related businesses or logistics related businesses in Africa, what piece of advice would you give them and why?
Okay. I think over the years, one of the things I've seen is people are trying to build, and the first thing they are rushing into is to build a technology. This is just my personal opinion. Technology itself is not the solution. You need to have a solution you are using technology to amplify. You are using technology to make accessible to many people. So I would rather say build your solutions first. Build your solution. I know there are quite a lot of apps you can use. No need rushing to build your own. You can leverage on Google Apps. You can leverage on Microsoft. There are quite a lot of apps you can use that are you just pay maybe a few $100s every month, and then you have access to these things. Leverage on that. I once heard someone say that if you cannot run your business using Google Apps or run it profitably, then you don't need to build an app first. Because I see that a lot of time, a lot of money is spent into building apps and not into actually developing the product itself. So you eventually build apps that the market doesn't want. Build a solution. When you build a solution, find a route to profitability. When you can operate this profitably, then you can now think of building your own app. By so doing, what you have operated profitably within a small locality, you can now extend it to many people. I think that is one of the things that truQ did very well. We started from being a business that worked B2C. Then we grew to working from B2B with small scale business to where we are today. And I know if we had rushed to build an app at inception, we will not be here today. because all of our funds would have been geared towards building an app, paying developers, and of course, developers are very costly. The engineers, software engineers are very costly. So I think that is one of the advice I would talk about. Build a solution, test it very well, find a route to profitability. When you are profitable, then begin to look at building an app that necessarily will make things better, that will amplify your work. So I think that's my advice.
Wow, wow. That's amazing
Yeah.
advice. Everyone, focus
Thank you
on the
very much.
solution, focus on the business, and build later when you're more ready for it. Right? That's really amazing advice.
Thank you very much.
Well, everyone, this is Bello from Truck. Scaling incredibly quickly. Really looking to 2x their business very soon. So excited for them. Thank you so much, Bello, for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, John. I had a nice time talking to you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Awesome.